Hello, everybody, and welcome back to That Eurovision site. Hello, I am Kittens. Hi, I use she, her pronouns, and I'm here with the lovely Ewan. Say hi, Ewan.
Hello, I'm Euan and I use he, him pronouns.
And we're going to talk about the thing that has happened this weekend, Benidorm Fest 2025. Benidorm Fest 2025 has just concluded, so we are recording this on the Sunday night. After Benidorm Fest, which was on the Saturday night, we have been through two semi-finals and one final. So we had eight artists last night in the final competing for the crown. Firstly, Ewan, what do you think about the show or the shows overall?
Overall, the actual production was considerably better. Like it was noticeable from the first few songs of the first semi-final. Like the actual production value, they've thrown money at it, and it's so much better than all of the 3 years. Because Benidorm was always it was okay, but it wasn't great. And I think last year particularly, the staging choices and they were just a bit flat, and the actual stage and the vibe, it was a bit meh. But this year, the whole thing just felt a lot more sleek. Like they've really come into themselves with Benidorm Fest, and because look, you're not going to get a great national final straight off the bat when you've not really done anything for years. So the fact that they finally come into themselves with this, it was really refreshing and great to see.
I mean, the one thing I did notice is we had a lot of technical problems over at least the first two nights, like on and off. We had sound issues, we had
Let's see,
stage
I'm excluding
issues.
Simon issues from these, but like the actual the visual
Yeah.
aspect of it. But
Oh
yeah, there's
yeah,
always
no. I'm
yeah.
just saying, but I think a lot of those got corrected for the final, which is always a good sign. Like things can go wrong, things do go wrong. But when things are getting noticed and pulled up and fixed, then that's always a good sign. Like, I'm not saying
Although there was
don't ever
one
make mistakes.
there was one problem in the final. There was a little bit of an issue with the graphics during the voting. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Where they basically accidentally revealed that Melody was the winner, like 2 minutes before all the fluff and saying like, who's it going to be? Because she was still at the top of the screen. Um, After they moved up all of the other acts, which I did think it was a bit funny.
Yeah, I mean, there were some things which were a bit out of kilter, but I think at this point we can chalk that up to this was a genuine mistake and, rather than just overall ineptitude, which is not what the situation is for Benidorm Fest. Um, it still has beautiful graphics. I love the graphics for Benidorm Fest.
Hmm.
It still has, we did see an improved staging. I think you are right that there were more artists putting more into their staging and more thought into that and how that would look visually felt better to me.
It did feel very musical theater, like I think you were saying, particularly with David Alfonso's. I think you were saying that
Yeah.
that was very, very musical theater, but I think for a lot of them, it kind of worked for the songs that they were.
Yeah, like it reminded me specifically of musical theatre because it had a lot of elements in it that I have seen in a lot of shows, and I'm a big musical theatre person. I do see that kind of stuff a lot, but equally, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just a comparison.
Hmm.
You know, musical theatres, musical theatres and theatre productions nowadays have a lot of budget, and I've seen some amazing staging at theatres, so this is not a slight.
Hmm. And just what you were saying about the graphics, I love that they are continuing with that particular style because I saw recently that it's actually an homage to some like the 72 contest, I think. And like the graphics there, so they've taken it when they like because they brought back the contest because it's been dormant for quite some time. So I love that they are like sticking with that like tradition, but it still feels fresh because
Yeah.
like I don't know if you've personally noticed or if yours are noticed, but like they do the little decals for each act. They're different for each
Yeah,
person. They're
yeah.
different every year. So I'm glad they're like still trying to make something fun and unique. Like they're not just like, oh well, just give up and just
Yeah.
do something generic.
I love that they, I genuinely think that they are up there in the graphic design stakes. And I don't think that's as recognized for Benidorm Fest as it is for other national finals. Like I do think they are right up there with like Pesma and FDC for
Although
me.
Pesma's in the bad books this year.
They are, but they have done well in the
Mhm.
past. But I think they have been right up there, and it doesn't get talked about a lot. So kudos to whoever is the graphic designer for Benidorm Fest. Keep doing what
Because
you're doing, sweetie.
it's
You're doing
so
an amazing
distinctively,
job.
yeah, it's distinctively Spanish. It's distinctively Benidorm as a city, and it's like the festival as well. Like keeping that coherency, it's just chef's kiss, like you say.
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos to whoever that is. Should we go on and talk about some songs? Who surprised you? Who surprised you in the opposite way? Who did you think did really well?
Well, see, Lucas Bunn was my fourth favorite, and I was really surprised at how bad he was.
Really?
Yeah, the whole thing just felt flat.
I got the
I
complete
got
opposite
I got
impression
no
from
emotion,
Lucas Bunn.
which says for you if you're saying something positive about ballad. Um, I think how because Benidorm like a lot, it's consistent with all the years. A lot of like the those initial recordings when you get them is like okay they're a bit flat but they'll be elevated on stage. Some of them they go the completely wrong way, like Aya, which becomes a complete train wreck and terrible song. Yes, Aya is an
No,
abomination. It should have come last at Eurovision.
no.
5 points was deserved. But as I was saying, so I was expecting a lot of them to be elevated. Um, they weren't elevated. They were horrendous. They were actually
Oh, come on.
I'm a Queen. I did not think could get worse. It did. Ragno di
I
Sole. I love that as well. It's like, oh, this is what Kitten feels like when she hears men ballads.
I feel like we have come out of this with the same thing about but about completely different songs.
Hmm.
Um so like I thought Lucas Bunn's like presentation was dreamy and beautiful and actually I kind of got it.
But
Um
his it's more like his actual vocal performance just felt very sterile.
I mean for
I did.
me I was
Hmm.
like, oh, I could just relax into this. I'm okay with this. I just felt like on a little fluffy cloud, just like wee. I really like that. But this is why me and you and like we are kind of like the two flip sides on these. Um, I yeah, I do think we have Benidorm. We talked about this in the like in the pre-video. That Benidorm Fest does have this bit of a trick of songs that you thought were really good on the recording being staged and performed badly, and the opposite way round.
Hmm.
Was there anybody who you kind of dismissed on the recording that you did think, oh,
Movie. I thought Luca Porti was just very okay. It wasn't horrific, but actually it sounded rather pleasant. I wouldn't go as far as like I wouldn't go out and listen to this. But if it came on, I would with that version on Benidorm Fest stage, I probably wouldn't turn it off.
yeah, I
But
was really
other
surprised by that
yeah,
one.
but with the others, the ones that I already liked, the likes of Henrik Semler, uh, J.K. Bello, and David Alfonso, I already liked them. So it's like they just elevated themselves. They were much better than I thought they would be.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
I would like to talk about Jacobello because I, I think there is a very fine line between like male artists like that looking confident and sassy and you know, attitude going for it on stage and looking creepy. And I think very, very well he stayed on the attitude line of that. And there is such a fine line between that sometimes. I just thought it was done really well. Like, yeah, good times. I would have been happy with it with that one if it had won, you
I
know?
mean, I would have been happy with it winning because it was the only song in the final that I ended up liking. I did not have a very good Benidorm this year.
Oh, babes.
Mm. Although I was extremely happy to see that La Casa didn't qualify.
I was I think I had a little rant about La Casa because the staging was
It was too musical theatre. It was too 50s musical theatre, if
I
that makes
was
sense.
just annoyed that this was a salsa song and she barely moved. I was
This is really
expecting
common
like
across so many national finals. They'll do like a tango or a salsa song, and they don't do anything with it.
I mean, her dancers moved around her, but she was just looking slinky, and she was looking like slinky and like hot and great, and like I'm not gonna fight on that at all. But I just wanted it to be so much more dynamic. I just wanted to just be just like so much going on in that, and it just felt a bit flat for me, and I was just disappointed by it. Not vocally at all, because I think she performed quite well.
Yeah.
But I just, the staging was not it for me. It was not what I was expecting.
It's
And
one of those ones where you either need to be completely still and let the energy be around you, or you need to match the energy of the song and be that full dancer. And if she's not, for instance, like, okay, her vocals, I don't like the song, but her vocals were great.
mm,
If she's not physically able to keep those vocals while doing something really energetic, then stand completely still. If you're doing like that sort of like half dancey, like it just comes off as naff. And we've seen that some other times, like in Eurovision itself, like for instance, Je me casse, which I know is really controversial, but it's like she's sort of just half dancing in it, and it didn't
you got to
work. It
commit to the
Yeah,
bit. You've got to commit to the bit one way or another. And I don't know. I was just that was probably the one out of all of them which the staging properly made me a little bit fuming, I think.
Hmm.
I mean, I have to disagree with you. I kind of loved Mawat. I wish there was like slightly more to the staging, but I kind of came around on Mawat. I think Mawat came went from like my eighth to my like first in the final or something like that. I wasn't really getting it on the recording, and I did really come around to it. Um, I mean, I also want to mention in terms of staging, La Pena, because I am still not sure how I feel about La Pena staging. It is either the most magnificent thing I've seen all year or too much.
I personally think it's too, because you were going into that liking De Teresa and liking La Pena,
I was, yes.
and I think for people that are just more casually watching, you're getting so much visuals thrown at you, and they're not really coherent and consistent. They actually takes away from the song because you're not paying attention to the song at all. So I think personally, like La Pena, it was too much, and it probably did hurt it with the juries.
I think it could have done with a, take one bull off stage before you leave the house. Moment. There was just so much going on, and like I liked her attitude, I liked what she was doing, but there was just so much going on that I feel like if I watched it like five more times, I would still be like, there was just a lot. And I did still really like what I expected with that song is we were going to get a good crowd reaction. And that delivered. Like, it's a song which is very sing-alongy. It has those sing-alongy crowd moments in it. And that's what I was kind of hoping for, and that delivered. Um, I'm really glad the crowd was there with her effectively. But I was a little perplexed by the staging. And maybe in like 5 more views I'll really like it. I don't really know.
Yeah,
But my
sometimes I think
initial
the
thought was,
I'm gonna give them everything they want doesn't work. They do need to just rein it in a bit.
yeah. Should we talk about the winner?
Actually, before you do it, because you
Okay.
mentioned vocals, and I do think this needs to be stated, and I don't know if this is what technical magic they've done, but the vocals this year across the board, semi-final and final, were so much better than they usually were. Because I don't know if you recall last year,
I do.
it was not pleasant. But there were people that should be able to sing, so I don't know if it's some in your problem, but they've really worked it so much better this year because basically everyone, R.I.P. Kingdom, was some degree of good or flawless.
Yeah, I do think we definitely had an improved situation here compared to last year for sure. I still think that there were some artists who struggled more than others.
But I feel that struggle was possibly more down to them as artists
Oh yeah,
than
yeah, yeah. No, I
technical.
get
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Like of course we never really fully know what's happening behind the scenes and in ears and all that kind of shebang. Um, so I'm reluctant to completely blame artists for where songs have we shall say they've never been performed live, you know. Um and but I think this year there were some artists who seemed to struggle on the stage occasionally, but I don't think it was quite as endemic as in previous years. So I do think it is improving. Um And, I think in some ways, artists will have been watching other artists perform and they'll go, well, I need to be absolutely flawless on the Benidorm Fest stage and I can't, you know, people may have seen the year before and gone, and stepped up their game a bit. So it may be a bit of both. It may be the technical was better and the artist fell under a little bit more pressure. I don't know.
Hmm.
We shall see. But I think you are
Yeah,
right in that generally things were better.
yeah.
There were not there was not as much blatant dubious moments. Shall we talk about the winner now, or have more words?
Oh God, do we have to talk about it?
We do. Come on.
It's definitely a piece of music.
I I went into this and this song would have been like I forget what I put it as, but probably like my ninth or like sixth maximum. Euan's looking it up, I can tell.
I have all of the rankings here.
I was not
If
sold on
things will
this.
load. Okay, Kittens, you had Essa Diva 13th out of 16th.
Yeah,
And going into the final, you had Essa Diva 4th.
yeah. I I think I was much more sold on it with the stage performance. And I could see what they were going for and what they were trying to do. And there were obviously problems in the semi-final performance. And those seemed to go away for the final. So whatever happened there, yeah, good job. Um, I do think I do think Benidorm Fest is quite a lot about the energy of the crowd and whether you have the crowd with you or not. And because I think that's quite symptomatic of like maybe what Spain thinks of you. And I think if you can do that and have that moment, then it kind of doesn't matter how technically good you are in a way because you have charisma and you have performance and you've got chutzpah and you can just go out there and do it. And it became quite evident to me that this was probably winning.
Mm.
And I think I did really come up on it throughout the kind of between the semi-final and the final. Like it was never going to be my first. Don't get me wrong, but I did appreciate it more for what it was.
Yeah, of the ones in the final, it probably had the most Eurovision ready feel to it compared to others. Because like La Chispa, it didn't feel like her song didn't feel like it was this could just immediately be on Eurovision. But Essa Diva probably like you could see that on the Eurovision stage. Don't necessarily think you should, or it'll do well, but it feels like it would fit if that makes sense.
Mm. It's a package. It's ready to go.
Which I
Like
don't necessarily you don't always need,
no,
but
but
I think
it's
sometimes it's good to have.
yeah, it's a nice to have. I mean, I'm sure they will do tweaks and changes and bits and bobs, but I don't think they need to do much with this to
Mhm.
put it on a Eurovision stage. And you're right that that's just a nice thing to be able to plump. Here's a package, go.
Yeah.
Which yeah, I
Although I do think when it does get to Eurovision, it's not coming higher than 22nd.
see. I don't know. I think it could come higher. I don't think it's gonna be. I couldn't guarantee you left side of the board. But I don't think it's going to be right down the bottom. Um, there is something a little bit dated, I think, about this song. And I don't mean that it's not enjoyable, but it's kind of enjoyable in the way that listening to something like Dum Tech Tech is. Because, like, you're listening to a song that is of its time. You know, it's just that this time feels like 10 to 15 years ago. And it
I don't think songs of that particular songs of that particular era will necessarily get the same reaction than if it's a 90s throwback.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean. Yeah, I know
So
what you mean.
yeah, because like something like Gustav, for instance, that is 90s music and it clicks with people. Okay, yes, I know they didn't qualify, but they did come 11th. But Ove Osbohinden, it's 80s music. It's a good throwback. It feels like that one. It still did, it came 11th, so it's not like it did horrific. It did like absolutely, utterly horrifically. But yeah, still. But I don't see Essa Diva with that sort of 15 years ago music. It's I don't think it's going to click with people as much
Do you
in a way
want?
to do well.
I think it will. The thing is, I think we are still too early in a Eurovision year to work out what is going to 100% go on. We don't really know the competition. And if we are in a year where we get a lot of slow songs or something, it's hard to pitch where this is going to fall.
Because
Um,
if there is so few mid and up tempo songs, it could possibly all coalesce around those few mid tempo songs, and this is just the one that gets left behind. Maybe scrapes like 18th. But I think 18th is possibly the ceiling if the stars align.
I would say that it might possibly go a little bit higher than that, but we'll have to find out at a later date. Um, I want to talk about one more thing before we shut up shop, and that is the voting.
Isn't it nice to actually have a fair voting system?
Well, it is sort
Fair-ish.
of, but I want to talk about the fact about the split between the mobile app and the callers
Mm.
because that has come out. So, for those of you who don't know, the scoring was half jury, half public vote. but the public vote was split 25% to, so it's split like 50-50, but 25% of that total figure was the text and phone calls, and 25% was the voting by app, which is fine, but roughly about 17,500 votes were cast via text and phone, and then 223,000 via the app. So a vote via the phone was worth almost that, like it was worth 13 times effectively as much.
Yeah, it's not, it isn't, it's not good at all. However, I don't think they possibly could have foreseen that big a jump in a vote because Spain used to have, you would get this less votes in this final of Benidorm, a country of about 40 million people, than a semi-final in Lithuania with about 2 million people. So I don't necessarily think they were anticipating the sheer jump in it. And I think, yeah, they need to get rid of the 25-25.
I also agree they need to get rid of the 25-25. It just needs to be however you vote is a public vote, but splitting it 25-25 when it happens like this is, I wasn't expecting it to be that discrepancy, if I'm honest. I was expecting it to be probably about the same. And then it would be combined together and it would be fine. But that is a lot. I mean, of course, it helps that doing it on the text and phone was not free, and doing it through the app was free. But I literally read that last night and just went, "Oh my God,
Mm.
that is huge." So I really hope that they change that up for the next one.
Well, also, hopefully there is a next one because they were running it
Yeah,
for four
that is
times.
true.
So like there were always going to be these four Benidorms.
Mm.
And I hope, given they've put so much more into this, they're going to keep with it because it's like they got, what was it, 1,200 submissions, which is the most they've ever had for any selection ever, which like there's an
And
energy behind this.
considering that, like, Zora didn't score well last
Mhm.
year, like, for a country to still be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go out and do it. Like, I
Mhm.
wish we had that, like, energy in the UK. You know, when in the UK, when we come, like, any lower than, like, 10, we're like, oh, everything's doomed. Clearly, in Spain, it's like, oh, we came, like, low down, time for revenge.
Mhm.
And I love that attitude. Do more of that.
Yeah, because there's certain countries that always do it. Like you had the horrible years of results for Latvia, but they still kept with Benidorm, and eventually it worked out. It's going to work out for Spain, and it's going to work out again when they just let Tanchugueras have 30 songs in the show.
All right, all right, all right. Right. Any last moments before we wrap up?
Yes, Henry Semler was robbed. Nulla Vest was the best song in the entire selection, and Spain, I will never forgive you for once again hurting my sad man.
I I do not approve that message, but Henry Samley, you are very sweet, but it's not for me. It's not for me. Right. We'll wrap up there. Thank you very much, anybody who's been watching. Thank you very much for watching. Give us a like and subscribe if you like what we said in this video. Um, and we are That Eurovision site. We have a website, thateurovisionsite.com. We also are on every social media thing out there. So please go and check us out on all of those for all your latest news and all our stuff. We will be back, I'm sure, with more conversations and such about things this season. We also have interviews and reactions and stuff on the website. So please go and check those out. All that remains to say is thank you very much, Ewan, for joining me.
Thank you
and
so
we
much
will
for having me.
and then we will see you again. Bye.
Bye.